Hey guys, and welcome back to Battlefront Updates and a very exciting video, because with me today I have weapon designer Christian. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Alright, so today we're going to talk a little bit about the new stuff coming in the DLC, the changes you've done to the old content, and a couple of questions from the community. So first off, in this DLC I would say that you're probably adding the two most unique blasters so far. Maybe you could give us a short little recap of what those blasters are and what the thought behind them are.
Yeah, we can start with the DT-29, which is pretty much Krennic's revolver that we know from the Rogue One movie. And the general idea and consensus was there that what should we do with another heavy blaster pistol? What should it mean to kind of wield this it also looks very much like a revolver, so we felt like it needed to reflect that as much as possible. So in my mind it quickly became the idea of like a 6-shooter, very gun-ho revolver. And we actually, in the end, when we pitched the idea to Lucas and everything, it made a lot of sense together with a reload animation and everything like that, because rather than the conventional blasters we have in Battlefront, we are actually having an energy pack in the DT-29. So all of that kind of came together as a kind of nice package.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it was very refreshing, because I'm starting to think like, how can they possibly come up with blasters that feel new when we have so many already? But this was a very good way to do that.
Yeah, that's been one of the kind of key challenges when it comes to not really reinventing the game every time we do a DLC, but just trying to offer something new and fresh that is not just here's a new blaster that it has this fire rate, it has this amount of damage. Right from the first X-Pack we already felt that this is going to be a bit tricky to keep interesting, so immediately it became an idea that we need to actually offer something special with every blaster that comes with the coming DLCs.
Yeah.
And I think in general when we came back to the DT-29 in this X-Pack, it was kind of like the culmination of that now we have tried a few things and now we're taking it kind of full circle to something people are familiar with from other games, but it's something that feels very new and cool for Battlefront.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I played with it, because I noticed that you can't use your star cards while you're reloading, so that's something not something you're used to, even though, like you said, in other games that's normal, but here it's like a completely new mechanic you need to keep in mind.
Yeah. It was a bit of a kind of like discussion back and forth whether star cards and so on should work and everything, but then since your hands will be busy with a pistol, and since it's going to be significantly more powerful than maybe the other heavy blaster pistols, it's something that felt like it makes sense when we're looking at how it should work.
Mm-hmm. One thing I noticed when using it is that it does 2 shots on short range in the chest, which the DL44 also does.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say is the major difference between the two, except for the fact that you don't have any heat on it?
It's the rate of fire, pretty much. Yeah, it's something that kind of like again coming back to the 6-shooter design, that you really fire off all of those 6 shots really fast, which can mean that you can quickly turn the tides in a battle with maybe 1 or 2 people, but then after that you will be stuck reloading the weapon. So it felt like a very given way of balancing this out.
Mm-hmm. And while we're talking about the DT-29, I was just wondering about a couple of combinations, since this is a new mechanic. First off, if you use something like the cooling cell, and since it doesn't have any heat, how will that work?
The cooling cell will still work on the pistol, where you will have essentially infinite ammunition on it, because while we per design of course made it that since it doesn't have a cooling unit on the weapon itself, and instead it has an energy pack, of course it makes sense then that it doesn't actually overheat when you're subject to disruption, for example. On the flip side, we evaluated how the behavior should be when you're using something like the cooling cell, for example, and it still made more sense that it works on the weapon rather than suddenly your own star cards would not work on your own weapon and everything. So the DT-29 will, on your charge cards, they will work the same way as any normal blaster.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the explosive shot that's not going to overheat either. You can basically shoot as much as you want.
No, exactly. But on the other hand, since you will then still be stuck in the reload animation, you will kind of already be in you will already be balanced out in a sense, since it takes so much longer to reload than cooling the weapon.
All right. So yeah, and the next blaster is the A180.
Yes,
and,
the Swiss Army knife, as Darkness commented.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm feeling pretty proud of that one. It's again, as I said before, something about the culmination of our ideas for how we can improve and make things interesting in Battlefront. The A180 felt like the kind of where we wanted to try something really new again, like the DT-29's ammunition. In this case, though, we were told from Lucas that the weapon was going to have some form of modifications, that you can quickly kind of modify the weapon and tweak how it works. So in my mind, that kind of quickly snapped into then we should do this and this and this, because we don't really support in the game how you would be able to change something on the weapon, since all of our buttons are essentially assigned to something in the game. There is not a lot of room to kind of deviate from the design that is originally in the game. But then, since we were shown how the weapon looks with the sniper version and the rifle version, it felt like a given idea that then we should of course assign it as a kind of like a star card hand, but in a new way. So while on paper, when looking at, for our blog post, for example, you see the pistol and you wonder, you haven't just made another pistol. But then, maybe not quite. Then we expanded upon that to not only have the sniper and the rifle, because you have 3 star cards on your hand. So then we actually tailored a third attachment, which is the ion mode on the weapon. So and props to our artists for doing that amazing work on the weapon, because you need not do 1 but 4 A180 weapons essentially. And in that sense, I think it was one of those that felt like the most interesting to play when we're looking at the new pack and everything, because it's something like, everything looks kind of different, but it also looks familiar, especially since they behave like regular star cards.
Yeah, and I felt like I usually play in third person, but someone told me at the event, like, hey, you should switch to first person, and seeing how you modify, actually like put on blaster part or pull up the sniper part of that was really cool to see. Because if you play in third person, you don't really notice that. You just think you switch weapon.
Yeah. Haglund, our animator, was quite thrilled to get to do something where you could use something a bit more extensive rather than just suddenly whipping out a blaster. And it also helps some with balancing and everything, because actually slotting the weapon onto the pistol takes a bit longer than just whipping the pistol out, for example. So we could then kind of make them a bit more powerful as well, because you can't just in the heat of battle throw up the rifle without some form of time. So it inspires a bit more proactive thinking. It's like, there's a lot of people, I should throw on the rifle, or this guy is a nuisance up on a ceiling or something, up on a roof or something like that. Then I should use the sniper rifle. So it felt more like. But it's also something that it's not going to be a use for everything, since the star cards and the hands in themselves, they have their own individual powers and upsides and downsides and everything. So the A180 will not be the kind of like the jack of all trades for everything. Yeah, it was nice to see not everyone jumping around with jump packs. So that was a good change. The good thing about forcing people to use other star cards. And something that should clarify that I mentioned to you before about the sniper part, it's kind of opposite the cycler rifle, because it does more damage on long range instead of short range, right? Yeah, I wanted to try some different way of kind of delivering the damage to the players, because one of the kind of challenges when it comes to the sniper rifles is that you do quite a lot of damage even on close range, and that could make this rifle attachments feel a bit not overpowered, but it could feel very much like you whip out the sniper rifle, point it into someone's chest and discharge. It feels then it would not really have that core usage. So it felt like we take it down by maybe 10 points of damage or something.
Okay.
So even if you hit someone in the head, that is still a one shot. But if you want to get the most effective range, it should be beyond 10 meters or something like that. So it's not like we make it super effective first after maybe 30 or 40 meters, but it's more just to kind of push out the effective range just a tad. So you would feel forced to use something else than a sniper rifle in a pinch.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good. And just to clarify, those extra attachments, they work just as star cards, right?
Yes.
So like Bounty Hunter, Card Refresh, all that kind of stuff affects your attachments.
Yes, they will work exactly the same way as the regular star cards. So the charge card, the two assets and everything, you should expect kind of the same results from with any weapon you have in your current star card hand.
Right. And the final addition in terms of weapons and star cards is the Sonic Imploder.
Yes, our new take on the dubstep grenade.
Yep.
We were presented with a few, weapons for Rogue One, and then one including that was a new grenade. So the question then became quite quickly, so what could we do with a new grenade? Because we have quite a lot of grenades in the game, and what felt like something we haven't really tried was some form of hybrid grenade that does several things, but maybe not as strongly as, for example, the flash grenade. That's been one of the core questions I've gotten the past couple of days now. Why should I use the flash grenade over the imploder? And the simple answer is that the flash grenade is still going to be stronger in the flash effect, while the imploder, the sonic imploder, can on the hand do a small amount of damage in the center area, and then it will lower any soldier's armor value.
I was going to ask that. It's because I know the Jin's version has that. Does the normal version also reduce armor?
Yes, it does that. It's more that the effective ranges is a bit shorter in comparison to Jin's grenade.
I see.
And the armor value is also something that we kind of lifted out a bit more for this game, because we had used it before for the old design of the Berserker, where if you reach level 3, you would have increased armor value, which we explained as you take less damage. But since we kind of moved away from that design with the Berserker and moved over to hip fire damage instead, we suddenly had some more room to work with armor rating. So for the Sonic Imploder, for example, the armor rating will go down, which means that a hero or a soldier will actually take more damage for a short amount of time.
Right. Do you have any rough value of how much extra damage does the armor reduction do? Is it like 20-30% or?
So we have basically 3 steps in how much it can reduce and how much it can increase your armor. So you will only see 1, 2, 3 as numbers, because we didn't want to show your percentage to make it clear for the players. And it's basically around like 20, 40 and 60 plus. So, but several things can affect your armor. Like if you have Chewbacca's Scream and Leia's Straight at the same time, it will increase even more. So you will see 3, but you might be at like 100% armor and you won't take any damage, for example.
Oh, so if you have 100%, that means basically no damage.
Yeah, or like very low.
Okay.
The system is kind of hard to say an exact number, but it's about that kind of. So you will still take somewhat damage, but it will be like very low.
Perfect, thank you.
So the Sonic Imploder in itself is more. It's also lifted from how Jin and Krennic have been designed when it comes to armor ratings and everything, and Guillaume can be able to elaborate on that.
Alright, so is there anything more you want to add regarding the new weapons, or should we move on to the changes of the old stuff?
I think we can move on.
Alright, so a couple of things I've noted. First off, we could talk about the weapons of the Death Star, which I know you've tweaked both the Briar Pistol and the TL-50.
Yes, so when it comes to the TL-50 and the K-16 Briar Pistol, they were quite small passion projects for everyone, since it's something that we had a lot of nostalgia coming from, the Jedi Knight and Jedi Outcast games and everything. And part of that was, of course, to move into the aspect of secondary fire, which goes back to offering something new and fresh with every X-Pack. And the secondary fire in itself is something that is a pretty cool and pretty fun thing to do. But yeah, we quickly discovered that playing in multiplayer, there needs to be some gauging on how powerful they can be and how often you can use them. But there is also some limitations of how much we can do and everything. So the things that made the most sense for kind of tweaking the behavior right now is to make the cooling flush skill game feel a bit more trickier using this one. So while a really skilled player can quickly get back to using it again, at least you need to kind of evaluate, is it worth trying to play the skill game right now, or should I wait and let it cool down properly? And then we also fixed the issue where secondary fire would do an increased amount of damage on vehicles and heroes, because that was never the intention of it. So, but when it comes to testing and everything, some aspects are missed here and there sometimes. And in this case, it was not a difficult fix in reality, but part of that was just lowering how much they would actually do. And then we also shrunk the max effective radiance for the explosion on it. We shrunk that by a small amount as well. So you really need to hit center mass to do a one-shot explosion with the heavy repeater.
Okay, good to hear. So that means hopefully not as spammy in indoors maps anymore.
There can always be some aspects that we still need to tweak a little bit again and so on, but in general it feels more fair.
Yeah, I tried it quickly at the event, and I noticed that before you could fire at least first 2 or 3 secondary fires pretty much for free. But now with the increased skill game, I was like, I'll just fire once and then I'll chill. Yeah. Because it was not as easy to cool down.
Yeah, and it also makes more sense then. You fire one off and then you move over to using more of the primary fires, since you can more manage your heat that way and everything.
Yep, and something I know that a lot of people have been frustrated about this Star card, the disruption, and you made a quite significant change to that.
Yes, it's the disruption is one of those kind of hate-love relationships for sure, because something that comes to designing for Battlefront and then for designing for Star Wars is that it's always very different on how we play from a regular shooter and everything. So offering some things to play dirty tricks, as we kind of call the ideas of those star cards, was that you should be able to kind of affect and disrupt enemy players. But then one of the key feedbacks to players, which is of course the one that makes the most sense, is that you don't really get a warning that someone is actually trying to disrupt you. And that was something that quickly was figured out. How should we be able to do this? Yeah, we'll have some effect that plays on the player and a warning noise and everything like that. So you can see that, okay, this person is about to do a disruption. And then there's also the fact that the player that starts a disruption, he can't actually shoot until the disruption has discharged. There becomes a bit of a risk-reward aspect of it, rather than just pressing, exploding, and then everyone can shoot you.
I see. So if you hear that sound, you should either try to hide or you should try to kill them within 1.5 seconds.
Yes, or switch to a weapon that doesn't get affected by the overheat.
All right. And something that I think you've mentioned on Twitter before, that you were going to buff the Stinger pistol. Have you done that? Because I used it and I didn't notice any huge difference. But
we tried some tweaks to it. I think the key thing that we did was mostly fixing the problem where if you equipped the pistol and unequipped it, you would lose a charge and the card would go into cooldown.
Oh.
So it didn't really feel like you could make a quick choice and then get back again. So that was something that made it feel less reliable, and it also kind of ruined your kind of your flow, because you constantly then have to like, do I need to be committed to using this pistol now, even if there's no one to shoot at or something. But I also raised the base damage a tad on the projectiles when you hit someone, and there might be a case where we need to do that a tad more, of course, because it's difficult to see exactly the kind of results this is producing until we see it in game and everything, and when everyone is using it. It's also one of those challenges we will always have in a way when it comes to many of our cards and our behaviors, is that it's not always easy to know how it will affect or change the meta, so to speak.
Yeah. And a couple of other changes, like you've added so that the Bacta bomb can actually heal heroes now.
Yes, it felt like the natural step from the increase in the team play aspect that we try to push more in the DLCs that we started in X-Pack 1 when we introduced the Bacta bomb, and then we later introduced the medical droid to offer a bit more of a team play aspect, but then it also felt like it was a bit half of an aspect, since you didn't really have anything to help the heroes with. So the natural step from the reworks we did with X-Pack 3 with kind of the extra health and how that regenerates on the soldier and everything like that, it felt perfect to actually introduce a similar thing to the hero, where the hero can actually get a 10% health buff from a Bacta bomb, a medical droid, and even from Krennic's Wrath of the Empire ability.
Right.
So, and that 10%, you can never exceed that 10%,
Okay.
but you can have a hero that then has 110% health
Oh, I see.
because of the extra health. But then, as normal soldier would never be able to regularly heal the hero. That is still reserved for Leia and Palpatine.
Okay, that's good to hear. So you can't just go in the back and everyone throw back the bombs at you.
No, and you can't really throw a grenade on the ground in the middle of battle and expect the hero to get these 10% health, because if they take a point of damage from anything, that any remaining health that has yet been filled is lost. So it's more of a so what we try to push there is more something where a hero could actually fall back and see if a soldier then has a Bacta bomb, he could actually get some more survivability to the hero.
All right. And while we're talking about Bacta bomb and giving points for that and so on, maybe we could talk a little bit about the new trade system.
Yes.
And because it was clear very quickly how it worked, that you get points for most of it. But what I was curious about was little bit like how much does each thing give, and how many, like, is there some sort of point system? You need 600 points for a level, or what are the specifications for how much you actually need for one level of the trade?
For the level system, we still follow the core design that existed with the trades, which is like the previous design was a 3-point system, and for each kill you would just get a point, and then you would level up. So we still follow that in a way where if you get a Bacta heal, for example, if you get a objective capture, arm objective, an assist, or any form of scoring event, that actually adds a tick to the trait. So for example, if you get a headshot kill on a soldier, that means you get 1 tick for the kill and you get 1 for the headshot. So that means you get 2 to the now 6 to actually get to the next level. So we raised the cap a bit, because also with the redesign we did of the traits from from X-Pack 3, where we actually increase how much bonuses you get at level 3 rather than offering something completely new, some of these traits actually becomes pretty powerful on level 3. So it made sense that we kind of raise the bar a bit, but then we offer more ways to actually get to the bar.
Yeah, and because I noticed that, like, if you use let's say if I stand close to an objective and kill people, that also adds like an extra level, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like defensive kills and everything.
Yeah,
like
so that really, I hope it's going to motivate a lot more people to play the objective, because now you get an actual reward from it. You get more powerful by playing the objective, basically.
Yeah, Rickard, our persistence designer for this, did a killer job trying to establish how much you should tick up the trait and everything like that for each level and so on, and then gate it a bit so we can't, for example, just throw down Bacta bombs and you will level your trait up immediately and everything like that.
All right, and one more change that I know about, but kind of minor change, but for the droids and turrets.
Yes, so we didn't really want to tweak them too much, because as they are power-ups, they are still expected to be like a powerful ally to you. So what we tried to do mostly there was to pull in the droid's effective range a little bit. So if you were beyond 25 meters, a droid's time to lock onto you and fire is actually doubled. So rather than the 1 second within 0 to 25 meters, it now actually takes them 2 seconds. So if you're on Endor, for example, and something is locking onto you, if you don't immediately see it, it's likely very far away, but that also means it takes a bit longer for it to actually hone in on you and fire. So what I wanted to do was just to make it feel a bit more like you don't just, I try to run over this field, something is locked on and firing on me. And also kind of working the damage a little bit on the range, so it just doesn't take you out immediately on that range. So in essence, in close quarters, it's still as powerful as it should be. The R5 droid has been balanced a tad because it has a significantly higher fire rate in comparison to the Viper. But to the core, they remain the same on close range, but on longer ranges, they feel a bit more fair to the ones it's engaging.
All right, sounds good, because it could be annoying sometimes.
Yeah, and then there's also things like we have worked the heroes a bit, so Luke's and Darth's lightsabers are now more powerful against it. So so it shouldn't be terrifying for a hero to engage a turret anymore.
Oh, that's good. Do you have? That was the end of my list of changes. Do you have any more changes that you want to bring up that you've done to?
I think that covers most of the big core stuff. There is the patch notes will of course detail more of what we have done and everything, including tiny things. Yeah, I guess the feedback I got from you, for example, on the DLT-19X, that on level 3 sharpshooter, for example, it now does a one-hit kill even if you're hit in the chest and everything like that. So kind of small tweaks like that, but most stuff has been focusing on the star cards and trying to get them more up to the level of quality we felt is needed to make it a fun experience for everyone.
All right. So now over to a couple of questions from the community. First off, this one. Now that we've actually seen the bow rifle in action in the stream and in the gameplay we had.
Oh yes, the bow rifle.
Yeah. There was someone who noticed, and I noticed as well, that it's called the CJ9 bow rifle, and is it named after you?
Not directly. It's something where we proposed a bunch of names to Lucasfilm regarding what should be named, because when it comes to the design of the bow rifle, it's that it's given to you, or you take it from when you defeat a champion that previously wielded it. So all of the bow rifles is in some way unique. Like when you compare it to Agent Callus and Seb's bow rifles, they are very different. So we were more inspired from using Callus's one because it's a bit more, it looks more like a combat weapon that makes sense in Battlefront. But then it needed a different designation in comparison to the other ones. So there was a huge list, and it's a bit of an incidental thing, but I also, since we discussed it as something that is very much like given to you by defeating the wielder, I guess I kind of it became my bow rifle in a sense, but it's more like a coincidence.
All right, well, that's cool to hear. So now over to in general, working on Battlefront, what would you say is your favorite weapon or star card to work on, or which is the one you're most proud of?
I think the work we have done to the Bacta in general, I feel like is the one I feel the most proud of, because it has actually changed a bit how you play the game. It feels like we see more people actually helping each other, and now that you can help the hero, it's going to be interesting to see how a Walker Assault round or something like that can play when people could actually, ask help from a soldier and everything like that. And when it comes to the weapons, I'd say the A180 is probably the one I'm the most proud of, both from myself and from the team for actually taking the time to putting it together, because it's so many components that needed to come together for us to actually get this weapon to play, both in terms of animation, sounds, VFX, and then from Lucas themselves for being so great at providing us with feedback and everything on how we should be able to handle all of these things.
Yeah, I agree that it's definitely one of the coolest weapons so far in the game.
Thank you.
So if you could do, during your whole work on Battlefront, if you could do anything differently from the start with any of the weapons or star cards you've created, what would it be?
It's a bit of a tricky question because we have already done a lot of different things to the ones that we have taken learnings from. So I think you kind of it's the game you will see when Rogue One is patched and everything like that is reflecting a lot of the things that I maybe didn't think about, but definitely feel like a lot of the stuff makes perfect sense, especially when listening to the fans and the feedback and everything like that. So in general, it's more like a learning process for all of us when it comes to working with Battlefront, working with Star Wars and everything like that. That it's not just a regular shooter. You need to kind of think outside the box, and what will it mean if we do something like this with a Bacta bomb, or now we're presenting the secondary fire, we need to adjust to this and make sure that it plays a bit better this way. So I think in general I feel like it's more I feel like I'm very much doing a lot of things differently already in that sense. So I don't feel like there's something like I would never do this again or something like that. I think it's more like we will probably do a lot of these things, but then we will kind of in my mind I would want to do some things differently within certain aspects or something like that, not maybe do something completely different.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, you've done a lot of changes multiple times to some of the stuff, so I can understand that it's been a good learning process.
Yeah, it's a learning process for myself, and then it's a learning process for kind of our players, that they get to turn. It's something is different all the time as well, so which kind of changes things up, and it doesn't feel the same way all the time, which is also a bit fun in a sense.
So what has been the hardest part of creating the weapons and star cards for Battlefront?
I think it comes back to what I said before, really. It's just the kind of the unknown of not quite knowing exactly what it means to do something, because it's like, again, a lot of props to Lucasfilm, for example, because they have been such a huge help when it comes to proposing ideas for certain things. Like, we would like to do something with the laser trip mine and everything like that. It's like, would it be okay if we do something where it would actually scramble the enemy radar? And then it's like something that feels reasonable. They come back with feedback and everything, and I think in general, what felt hard was mostly just trying to deliver something that surprises the fans and makes it something that it's fun to play. And the fun to play aspect has been varying, of course, when it comes to certain star cards and weapons and everything like that. But then we learn from that and we improve on it. And I think it's been the hardest, but it's also been the most exciting aspect of it, because it's allowed me to kind of think more about what it would mean to do something for Star Wars, but then also for a new way of doing a shooter.
Yeah, well, that sounds good. So next up, let's see. It's sort of a similar question, but what has been the best thing about being able to work on the blasters and star cards for Star Wars Battlefront?
I think it would be I got actually the chance to tell small stories through the weapons. And there was always, once we moved beyond X-Pac 1 and we started to realize that we needed to make something more special with the weapons, they needed an aspect that would make them stand out from the previous blasters. Then it kind of quickly slotted into how a weapon can actually have its entire backstory and everything like that. The X8 Night Sniper, for example, it felt like the perfect example of a weapon where, we have Lando coming in. Which weapon should we use? Well, should we use some weapon we have seen in a promotion piece from Return of the Jedi, for example, where he has one blaster? Or should we use the one that you see Lando use in Star Wars Rebels? And when looking at what we could do and what made most sense, the X8 Night Sniper felt like it was the most interesting one to work on, because then we introduced the Night Sniper aspect with I say that with quotation marks with a night vision scope. But then there's also the artist gets a chance to actually design a weapon that we previously only seen as very low poly mesh in the cartoon, for example. So they get a chance to say, we have now kind of built the more high definition version of the weapon, so you can actually see it on Wikipedia and everything like that. So I'd say kind of also just making the subtle nods here and there, like the Briar pistol, for example. It's one of the dream aspect was to kind of just make those nice and subtle nods to things that have kind of molded me into the Star Wars fan that I am today. It's just that there is a lot of the Star Wars the legends and everything like that, and to kind of just say, here's the Dark Enforcer, the Hut contract and everything, which is actually one of the suggestions from Lucas to actually call it Dark Enforcer for kind of that subtle nod again. So I think that was just the best aspect for me to kind of fuse in a bit of my own Star Wars nerdiness into it.
Yeah, I'm jealous being able to work on official Star Wars stuff. That's pretty cool.
It's definitely a dream come true, to say the least.
All right, so a question regarding Guillaume stuff. What would you say is your favorite hero in the game?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I heard they all suck.
Guillaume's input is always great. But we worked pretty closely when it went to talking about how weapons should affect the heroes, what kind of weapons they should have, and always trying to discuss what it means for a ability for the heroes and everything like that. So we worked very closely together, which I feel like is one of the more fun aspects of the heroes and everything like that. Guillaume has been doing a stellar job on them, on pretty much all of them, in my opinion, even with the trait upgrades to the existing heroes. So just having Darth suddenly be more tankier just because there's a lot of enemies around him, that's amazing. But I'd say my favorite hero would probably be like, I was a very big fan of Bosk, mostly for his voice and everything like that, and then taking the Dioxis grenade that we made in X-Pac 1 and making it something super potent that would just immediately eliminate everyone around him. But I would actually say that Jin is actually my new favorite, because I really love doing the truncheon surge and just whacking people.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to doing that on Tuesday.
Yeah, she's so much fun. Also, she's very... I like her mischievous, rebellious side to her, how she talks and everything like that. And she's a fun hero to play. So I'd say she's my new favorite.
All right, cool. Well, do you have anything more you want to add, or?
I think it's just a big thanks to the fans that have been, sticking with us this time and being very vocal about feedback and everything. And of course, big thanks for having patience with us when it comes to improving on features that might not have seemed like the greatest immediately and everything like that. And so I'd say it's with kind of like a humble thanks to everyone, including yourself, for having such a great community around you and relaying what you learn by constantly playing the game.
All right. So yeah, my final question is off topic, I guess, but would you rather fight one Rancor-sized Ewok or 100 Ewok-sized Rancors?
Tricky question. I'd say I must admit that when I'm looking at the Rancor and I'm looking at the Ewoks, I'm actually in general more afraid of the Ewoks because they're so small and can hide in pretty much anything. So I would probably go for the Rancor-sized Ewok in that case.
Alright, but yeah, that wraps up this video. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So yeah, as always, thank you very much for watching, and may the Force be with you.